In the second Aliyah of Parshas Bo, after concluding the discussion of the Makav Arba, the Torah records the episode of Choshech. And of course, we are familiar with the idea that there was Choshech for all of Mitzrayim and for much of even the Rishaim amongst Bnei Yisrael was a time in which they were killed. But for the rest of Bnei Yisrael, there was light. And the Torah tells us about this Choshech which was created. But the Midrash wonders where this comes from and brings a machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemia. Rabbi Yehuda omer mechoshech shel mala, Rabbi Nechemia omer mechoshech shel gehenim. That this darkness of Choshech came from somewhere. And Rabbi Yehuda says that it was Choshech shel mala, it was some Choshech that came from somewhere above. And according to Rabbi Nechemia, it was the darkness of Gehenna. And Rav Schwab explains in his Mayan Beis Shaleva what those two dissecting opinions mean. According to Rabbi Yehuda, the Choshech shel mala refers to, explains Rav Schwab, the Hisgalus, the revelation of the glory of God. And that as a result of the Hisgalus, the recognition of the Ribono Shel Olam, the Rishaim were hit with this blindness. He explains as a mashal, someone who looks at the sun and afterwards has a difficulty seeing because something which is so bright then makes everything else seem so dark. And so when God was revealed in this manner, there was an intense choshech for the Rishaim. After they looked at this revelation of God, there was an intense choshech that they experienced. That, he says, is the Choshech shel mala. Whereas, according to Rabbi Nechemia, it was the Choshech shel Gehenna. And the contrast between the Rishaim and the Tzadikim, between the Mitzrim and Bnei Yisrael, was that for the Mitzrim, the Choshech shel Gehenna was revealed. And simultaneously, there was an or b'mosh vosam, there was a light for Bnei Yisrael in their dwelling places where they were. And that was the light of the Hisgalus Kavod Elokim, the revelation of the glory of God. And it was that contrast between the revelation of God's Kavod and a Choshech shel Gehenna. And so while this is a machlokas precisely where this Choshech came from, whether it was a result of blindness or as a result of seeing such clarity and bright revelation of God, or if it was the Choshech shel Gehenna being contrasted with the Hisgalus Kavod Elokim, with the revelation of the glory of God for the Tzadikim, or b'mosh vosam. But nonetheless, what we take away was that there was this contrast between the Mitzrim and the Jews, between the Tzadikim and the Rishaim. The deep Choshech which was experienced, regardless of where it came from, whether it came from the Choshech shel Gehenna or whether it came as a result of not being prepared for the Kavod Elokim. In contrast to that, to the Tzadikim, to Bnei Yisrael, who were prepared, who could see the Kavod Elokim, who could bask in that revelation. That in Mirza Hashem, as we ourselves turn towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we greatly await and anticipate that day of that Hisgalus Kavod Elokim, to be able to be prepared to see that beautiful, bright glory of God.